All right, welcome for some HAMTAGgery. Judd has not logged in yet, so I've sent him a couple text messages. I've sent him the link, and maybe he's still setting up. So hopefully he'll slide in here in a bit. I'll fill a little bit of time before we get to me, and Judd's, hopefully, top 5 war games from the 90s. Let's see. Let's just see who's in here first. We got Matt Curiosities is in. We got Vorpal Bite. And I thought maybe there was somebody else that had commented. Obviously, we got a lot more viewers than commenters. Dan Lucas is in. And let's see. Isn't it in his Hall of Fame? Ambush is in my Hall of Fame, which means it can no longer be named, nor any part of it, including Shell Shock, which is the 2-player version that came out in the 90s. So, our Sedan is good. So Ambush is out. You won't hear about it. Can't even be a side mention. But do know that I don't know if Shell Shock would have made this list anyway. So here comes Judd. He's starting to come in. Let me see his, I can see his feeds coming in, but I don't have them visually yet. But that's all right. We'll take time. It's Saturday. Let's see. I'm looking. Okay. He's working on his camera as we speak. He's adjusting angle. I'm going to bring him into the feed because this is live.
Sorry, I had to get my Snowden protocol in place, you know.
Woo, that's right. And you got a dog. We're live right now, brother. We're live.
Get him.
What's the dog's name?
Jordy, named after the Star Trek guy.
Spilled that's like right. I forgot.
Spilled like the K-State / Green Bay Packer receiver. Packers suck, but Jordy was a good man with K-State.
And then if you can, either slide your chair or you can bring it or your laptop.
Okay.
You're good, man.
Yeah, to come down and check out the situation, make sure it's all safe down here for me.
Oh, I love dogs. My shepherd passed away not too long ago.
Oh, man.
I know. And then my boy wants another dog, but that was whenever the animals pass, it hits me. I got a buddy that's always got 2, and he says the cure is replacing right away. I'm like, I can't.
Man, I had a Chihuahua that died when I was in college in 1990, and we just got him a few years ago, so it took a while.
There you go. I'm with you. Well, we had the discussion brought up that Shell Shock from Ambush came out. It was pointed out it is in my Hall of Fame. All the expansions, I can't bring him in, and I don't think Shell Shock would come in. Combat Board Game says, I think he was the one that said, what about Battle Hymn? I think Battle Hymn was actually 88. I don't think it was a 90s release because I bought and played a lot of Battle Hymn. I don't know the exact year. Somebody can look that up. That was Sedan that said that. Sorry, our Sedan. Combat Board Game said, don't let Judd say we the people. It's only a variation of Washington's War.
Yep. You are right. It's I was going to mention it, but you already did that. It's basically Hall of Fame. Otherwise, it would obviously be number 1.
There you go. Look at that. Combat Board Games, great minds think alike. Okay. So first thing we do is we set the stage with the 90s a little bit pop culture wise with the music. But before we go into that even, I will just say right off the bat, the 90s and the aughts, but probably the 90s were some of the worst gaming years for me, not because of games, but because of where I was in my life. So just turning 20 in 1990, serious girlfriend, working the job. But it's the key time for me in my 90s. Serious girlfriend turns into fiance, turns into maybe not. She ended up finding another guy. That was fun. I get the job on the police department, 95, super busy. I go in the Army in 92, 91, late 91 into 92, super busy. I was not playing. I may have broken out Ambush or B-17 a couple times, but most of my collection was boxed and not even on the forefront of the memory. So what were you doing? Were you doing a lot of college gaming or anything?
Stratomatic. I mentioned that before, the basketball, running the leagues in the dorms and stuff. I played, solo, opposed, everything. And outside of that, you'll laugh at this, party games. Pictionary. That dumb game where if you say the word off the list, they buzz you. Yeah, you can't say that. You get a word.
Yeah, what was that? Was that categories or?
Yeah, it was dumb. Let's see. Oh, Nuclear War. I'd bring that one. That's that old card game. But otherwise, spades, hearts, stuff like that. Trivial Pursuit. But yeah, I didn't play a single war game probably at all during that decade. But retroactively, I've got stuff made, which looks like all of our other lists. Hey, in the 70s, I was a kid. I wasn't playing lots of stuff. It's what was published during that decade.
Yes. And you know what? I forgot to grab some of my stuff over here. I can't believe I didn't bring it over to stage it. Hey, I was rushing around here. Why don't you go into some other things in the 90s? Let me grab some of these real quick.
You mean the pop culture music stuff?
Well, that or fill anything.
Okay. Well, let's see. 90s. I guess the grunge act got big. The only one I was into is Pearl Jam. I'm a pinko commie. I didn't like Nirvana. Most of that stuff. Got into Young Country back when Garth Brooks and those guys for about 5 years until some of those clowns in the late 90s started ruining it. And I mean, I was an old school, so mid 90s, I started getting into old school hardcore jazz. So I kind of went retro in that aspect. So 90s music, there wasn't much of it for me. Decent stuff I've heard since then, but wasn't into it at the time. I feel like Garth when Wayne's off the set. Birdie and Garth. See any comments here? Hey, ER, how's it going, man? Let's see. Axis and Allies. Nope. Played in the 80s. Buddy of mine got it in the late 80s after I had started getting out of gaming. We played a little bit of it. Never played it since. Bebop. Good call, dude. Let's see here. Working, I was not a gamer other than video games. Yeah, I did. I was in college for a lot of the 90s.
Woo! Can't believe I didn't get them all over. I still had them sitting over there, but they weren't in their right order. Let's see. Yes, there we go.
I was playing country music in the 90s. Yeah, so was I, man. Early 90s. I hated that stuff in the 80s. I like it now. But yeah, Garth Brooks and them dudes, they got me going. And then I always said Kenny Chesney was the death of country music for me.
Well, you're right. Country definitely came in strong. I did listen to, there was a little bit of Nirvana, but the grunge thing perplexed me because it was funny, being graduating high school in 88, and I was up in Evergreen, Colorado in the mountains, and prep was all in. Everyone's wearing Izod polos, and and it was actually a pretty clean, sharp look. I think back and think, man, parents had to love it. The hair was crazy. Lots of hairspray, even with the guys. But yeah, then the grunge thing comes in, and Toby Keith and I Should Have Been a Cowboy. That was one that, totally brings me over. And then the George Strait music. What did I have here? Check Yes or No. I was just watching that video. Reba McEntire's Fancy. Reba's on fire. Tim McGraw, Don't Take the Girl. But yeah, Garth Brooks, you're right on. He's got Friends in Low Places, The Dance, The Thunder Rolls. He was just, it just.
I saw him in concert. I did listen right before I got into country. I was listening, the Rich Mullins I was into him really big, and SFC is an old gospel rap band that was pretty cool. But yeah, when I got into the country, oh my goodness, I was making mixtapes galore. I was hitting the used store and grabbing cassettes and CDs, radio. I made like this 11 cassette compilation of just mixes, and man, I was riding my bike everywhere. Did a 100-mile ride one day. I was doing, 20, 30 miles a day on a bike pretty easy. And I'd go out with my Walkman on, just playing country music. And I'd hit the country roads out in Kansas so people couldn't hear me singing.
No, it's perfect. I remember I was at work. I knew I wanted to get into law enforcement, but I thought, you know what? Let me see how I like even doing uniform and shift work. So I was working at this mall in Denver in the suburb called Southwest Plaza doing security work. And we were going to update and paint the security office. So it came in on our own time, or a bunch of us did. And somebody was playing country, and I remember thinking, oh, gosh. And then some of the new stuff started. I'm like, whoa, who's singing that? And then the complete shift happens. And I think it was right at 1990. Because all through high school, I didn't touch. I mean, it was all, like I said, Van Halen and Def Leppard. And then, 90s comes in big. And I love just the lyrics and the storytelling that was going on.
Oh, yeah. You know, the funny thing, when I grew up, I knew who the Eagles were. Remember, I was a real little kid, but you couldn't help it. But when my folk stuff was getting around, it was more of Hotel California.
Right.
I knew the old songs just because you couldn't help, but I didn't realize. I remember in 87 or so, I was at school and they was doing some construction work, and the guys had some music blaring, and they started playing "Take It to the Limit." And I said, "Oh, that's that old country song I heard back in the day." I thought, I heard that Eagle stuff, Seven Bridges Road, stuff like that. You swear that stuff is country. Well, then the 90s comes along, and they made that Common Threads tribute to the Eagles thing. Like, holy cow, this stuff sounds more like the Eagles than, Eagles sounded more country than a lot of the band, but
yeah, I remember I went to an Eagles concert in Denver, Fiddler on the Green deal, and it was supposed to be like their last. Of course, I think once they finished that tour and made a killing, they were like, well, never mind, we'll do that again.
Yeah. But, don't forget old Hootie and the Blowfish. That album. Oh, yeah. So then that singer dude ended up going country.
I know.
But yeah, that was some pretty good stuff. Did you do any concerts back then?
Well, it was not many. I wasn't a big concert guy. It was Eagles, Fiddler on the Green, where that was the outdoor kind of amphitheater in Denver. I didn't do any concerts at Red Rocks, and boy, do I wish I would have. I mean, Red Rocks is so awesome. I've never been a big fan of huge crowds, and Police Works just made that worse. I see crowds as unpredictable. So.
I saw Rich Mullins a couple of times in college, and saw Garth, but that was back when he was selling shows out in 30 minutes and stuff. But yeah, then 99's when my sister and I took my mom to Motorhead out here in Wichita, and boy, I tell you, I think I was about 30 then, and I told a buddy of mine, I go, man, you don't want to go to concerts. I said, you turn into your parents. I'm like, why do they have this music up so loud? And why are these idiot kids running around and bumping into each other and earrings in their faces and cut your hair, you hippie? I mean, I was just like, wow. But, man, I had earplugs in, and I was still like, because I was smart by then. But I was like, man, that was some serious loud. And, I never heard of a mosh pit, and we're stuck in it. My sister and I thought we were going to get into a fight that night.
The best concert I ever went to was an accidental concert. One of the radio DJs before my girlfriend, fiance, let me know it wasn't working out. She went into active duty Army and was in training. And her mom had sent this thing to a DJ. Remember where they would call people in the morning and make up crazy stories and stuff? So the DJ calls me early in the morning, like 7. I was shift work, so I was asleep. Answer the phone. And he's pretending that my girlfriend had gone AWOL and they'd found all these hot love letters and they're pranking me. I'm like, what? And then at the end, they're like, hey, it's really DJ so-and-so. And I won tickets to an Andrew Lloyd Webber concert. And I invited my girlfriend's brother, who was a buddy of mine, and he was a big music guy. And I was thinking, why is this? But I was like 10 rows back, and it was unbelievable. I can't remember their main star was the lead singer from not Cats. Oh, Phantom on the Opera was going on. So that's Cats and Jesus Christ Superstar and Phantom of the Opera. And the music and the singing blew me away. It was, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, it was just the skill level that was there. Here I thought, oh, this is going to suck. Well, I couldn't have been, hot band or something, and I loved it. I became like a Andrew Lloyd Webber super fan.
I saw Journey got back together during that time, put that one album out, then Steve Perry left, but they went out on tour with The Replacement and all that stuff. And sadly, I had a chance to see Journey at the height of their powers, but I was too young and I wouldn't go. But I did see them twice in the 90s. And what was hilarious was I went out to Kansas City with a friend of mine, and it was an outdoor concert in mid-July. And it was one of those, if you're familiar with it, on the grassy hill. And it was Billy Squier, Foreigner, and Journey. And and it started like 3 o'clock. And Squire comes out the guitar and does some stuff. And I think Foreigner comes on at 7. And I mean, this was so hot, you could imagine. It was like 99, 100 degrees or something. And I go to get a drink, and of course it's like $5 for a 32-ounce drink. And you're trying to sip that and make it work and not dehydrate. And this is what's funny. When Foreigner comes on, everybody's standing because they had the original gang there. It's cool. And they give a big full show. And this dude, I start smelling that bittersweet smell you smell at concerts. My sister in the 80s told me, "You smell that?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "That's marijuana. You'll never forget the smell of it." And I was like, "She's right. I can pick it up anywhere." It's like, somebody's smoking some pot or, But anyways, I told this girl I was with, I go, because this is the engineer in me. I go, that guy's not too smart. I said, if pot makes you hungry and stuff like I hear, I said, that stuff's going to be kicking in. I said, them burgers here are like $8 a pop. I said, that dude needs to be lighting up during Journey and then go down the street to McDonald's and hit the dollar menu.
Yeah, there you go. You're bringing logic in.
I know. It's like I couldn't help but be an engineer.
Now, David Kay said the next thing Bart's going to say is that he enjoys Barry Manilow. That's my Andrew Lloyd
Bart,
Webber.
I'll back you, man. Andrew Lloyd Webber. My daughter likes a lot of Broadway stuff, and I told her, yeah, but she's heard him. I was like, yeah, you need to check some of his stuff out. He's.
Yeah, I had no idea. I remember this is back when they said, hey, you won some tickets and you had to drive down to the station. So I drive down there. I go in. They go through a file deal and they hand me an envelope. And I look in. I'm like, who's Andrew Lloyd Webber? I've never heard of this. And then
back in the 80s, I had the LPs of Jesus Christ Superstar, Broadway and the television. And the Broadway one, believe it or not, I think is the dude who played Jesus was the singer for Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water. And the dude who played Judas he did that song One Night in Bangkok. I think Murray Head was his name.
Sure. Yeah.
I was like, cool, but yeah. So yeah, there's good stuff, man.
Yeah, Trevor just mentions Green Day. I didn't like Green Day albums or cassettes, but I definitely liked several of their singles, the more poppy hit ones. Mm-hmm. I also like the fact that when they got big, they went and did like professional vocal lessons and they really upped their game. I liked how I don't know. I appreciated the fact that they were like, okay, hey, we've got some money. Let's improve. But that's I love competence. So other than Nirvana, hey, we've got a big hit. Let's use heroin.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, I did the Pearl Jam 10 when a buddy of mine hooked me on. That's a good record. I never cared for anything after that. But yeah, you mentioned that heroin. My sister saw Alice in Chains one time, and I think it was over in Springfield, Missouri, and their singer come out, and man, he was just messed up. She said he's like trying to pick up imaginary stuff off the stage. He does like 1 or 2 songs and walks off the stage, and people were about to tear the place apart. And she said she's driving home and this tour bus went by and she thought it was them and she was going to give it the bird. And instead, the opening band, I forget who it was, but Ginger Baker, the old Cream drummer, was playing, and she was a drummer. So she really got a kick out of him. So she held up her Modern Drummer magazine with him on it, just like, ha, screw you. And then the guy started giving her the thumbs up, and it was the Petra Bus, the old Christian band. They happen to be in the area, and they're like giving her thumbs up as they drive by. So I'm glad I didn't flip them off.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, that's my only deal. You look at these, there's these geniuses of music, and you know, I mean, Garcia from the Grateful Dead, and it's just like, oh, you know, come on.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I think some stars burn bright. So,
Yeah.
all right, so let's get into the gaming. I love setting the tone, though. I've been loving these decades as we move through. Again, this was I like you came to several of these games later because I didn't find them at the time, and then I found them later and was like, oh my god. So why don't you kick us off with your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 is, I'm glad you got this so you don't have to feel bad about it anymore. So I'm trying to get it from be out the glare. Breakout Normandy. Shoot, I forgot to prep my thing. In 1991, I think James Stahl or something was one of the designers, and Don Greenwood, Avalon Hill. The third, I think, or fourth area impulse game, Storm over Stalingrad, the Casino, Thunder at Casino, I think, and the Turning Point Stalingrad. Yeah. This one, I think I mentioned a long time ago on a World War II video. One of the big area impulse, I mean, really big set of rules, big board, long game. You don't see those as much anymore. It's obviously it goes D-Day and you're fighting through the bocage, I think is how they pronounce that.
Yep, you got it.
I don't do French, you know me.
Well, you sounded professional. I like the way you say bocage.
Yes. Bocage.
Yeah, the bocage.
But yeah, it's a really cool. It uses the bigger area. It's not the Storm over Arnhem system where you activate and flip. That kind of. Actually, yeah, I think never mind. It's been a while since I touched this one, but yeah, actually, I think this one is. But it uses the sunset die roll was the key I was looking for. But it's funny. It's I've played so many area impulse games since. Originally, when I had this on that 2013 list, this was my favorite area impulse game. I like the newer ones since. There's this thing, phrase fiddly, and I'm not saying the game is fiddly because I don't think it is, but it kind of amounted to, is these extra rules worth the payout you get? If you have to spend 10 pages of rules to do something like get an extra die roll, like, dude, that's, and usually they add, you'd love to have the minimum amount of rules and either add them to make the game more fun or to add historical detail. And a lot of the smarter guys doing this has figured out that they come up with their base system and then add these optional rules for how much detail you want to add. This didn't have it. The supply rules are a little bit more than they probably should be. The D-Day rules, quite a bit of D-Day rules just for the opening turn. Might have been better to have an optional set or set it up where you're already on the beaches and have an option to do that. So it's a little bit rules intensive, and they're Don Greenwood rules, which means the layout has something to be desired. But it's still a fabulous game. But I would love to see it done again using some of the newer concepts, but I don't think that's going to happen. But it did influence a lot of the games that came after. But I'm not a D-Day guy a lot. I used to have the D-Day at Omaha Beach, played a little bit, kind of burned out on it. But a lot of the D-Day stuff just never does it for me. And I said, this is kind of my game of choice, even though D-Day is a turn. I don't have a lot of games on fighting through the bocage as much as I had the scenarios. And then the France 1944 is the breakout. So I kind of play this as my lead up to France 1944, then play it, and I'm more than satisfied. And it's been the D-Day-ish game I've held on through the years.
Got it.
So, my number 5.
Beautiful. My number 5, I almost got when it came out. I was fully aware of it, but it was not my genre. Peloponnesian War.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the new version, obviously. I was so close. I love the idea of you're playing one side until you do too good, and then boom, it flips you to playing the other side. So that Mark Still, that was what intrigued me when he did the reprint, and I was like, yes. Now I'll tell you, it's still not my era. I mean, it's the same problem I have with Command and Colors Ancients. I enjoy it. I like but it just doesn't call me to it as often, even though it's great. Same thing with the Peloponnesian War. I love everything that's going on. I love what he did with it. I'm thrilled that it's back in print. I had actually, having not picked it up, and then when I got back into wargaming, 2006 on, I went on eBay and I thought, oh, I may grab that, but it got so pricey, so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, man, I don't think I'll get, even though it's solitaire, I don't think I'll get the play of it. But to me, it's one of the key things going on where solitaire, with B-17 ambush moving through, and then all the new stuff that was coming, and how designers were playing around with solitaire systems. So I think it's phenomenal in what it does. And I would love to even see more where that system's set up where if you're doing too good, it flips, and now you've got to play the loser. I will shift into, I was doing in the aughts, I was doing a lot of first-person shooter games. Excuse me, Day of Defeat. There's nothing I love better than jumping on the losing team, figuring out what they were doing wrong, rallying, creating team cohesion, and then when they got too good, once again, flipping to the losing team. So doing that in a board game, solitaire, awesome.
Do you know about my story with that game? The reason I never upgraded it and never would upgrade it. I mean, I'm nothing wrong with it. Hey, GMT, glad you did it. Oh shoot, I was already I had already exposed as the Mark Herman fanboy, I think, or maybe I was just coming on at that time. Anyways, I know we hadn't done HAMTAG yet, so yeah, I guess you only knew me as the big Washington's War fan, but there's some list over on the forum. They were talking about games, and I saw that, and I clicked on. I was like, holy cow! Mark Herman made a game on the Peloponnesian War, and I think I made a comment to that. I was like, holy cow! This is automatically on my radar. So I told you I wasn't parked outside of his apartment or was built at his house or whatever, like people think, and tapping his phones and all that. So I didn't even know all his games at the time. But anyways, no, I just put a comment like, holy cow, this, well, then I went and looked at it and was like, man, thing was going for $90 plus on the secondary markets. And, I tried it, but I thought, this thing ain't going to happen. I'm going to have to be really patient. And then Mark Herman writes me out of the blue a few weeks later and says, hey, send me your address. And he had a copy.
That's right.
And he sent it to me. And I was like, holy cow. It didn't have the playbook in, which I was able to get that and print it off. I think he said that. But I was like, yeah, I got a personal copy from Mark Herman. And I don't keep duplicate games around outside of my old Starfleet battle stuff. But so I was like, yeah, that would be cool. But no, I'm not getting rid of my Mark Herman copy.
Exactly.
But that playbook in there, that is an excellent resource if you want to learn the background. Some dude had wrote a big thing about it. And because, I love to do the YouTube videos and give backgrounds. And Peloponnesian War, there's not a lot of really good. Back then I was looking, it was like these really boring lectures. And, it's like just some dude in front of a podium with a camera on him, no maps. And plus, you got like this war stretching over all these years, and there's like 3 of them or something. So it's, it's a little tougher to put the pieces together. But yeah, that's a good resource in that.
Perfect. Yeah. Vorpalbite said, Bart, is that the same Peloponnesian War I saw back in the 70s? No. It came out, I want to say 91 originally, maybe. Yeah, he'll go look. He's got the original, and then GMT did the reprint just last year, if I remember right.
That's the Mark Herman copy.
Yep. Yep. And I, know the number of times I picked that up off the shelf back in that day, because working at that mall, they had a game store, and I would wander in there. And I remember I kept thinking, but it was 2 things. I didn't have as much time, and then it wasn't really my era, but I was there we go. Combat Board Game says 1991.
Yep.
So does Lucas. So yeah, I know there were other Peloponnesian games that were out there, but this was 91. So
what was cool? I did it. Stuff I didn't get. I don't know if you ever played Pericles or familiar with the game. Came out 2017.
Familiar with it.
It's based on Churchill. So you got this debate going on and topics, and you go over here and play the battle. And what was cool was you see the background, all the politics and infighting going on. And after I understood that, I saw why you'd pull a leader out of the cup and you'd have a modifier that would affect the die roll for what their plan was. And I was like, oh, he's abstracting that debate mechanic like maybe this guy's more prone to peace or something like this. He's abstracted that into that little counter. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, you are up, brother. Number 4.
Hey, Trevor, dude, I've been in the house, man. If there's coronavirus getting me, it's going through walls. We're all doomed.
I think he's saying that the game, not that the gloves for safety. He's talking about white gloves for preservation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a one-off that was sent to you.
Well, I was saying, when I opened it up and pulled it out of the box, it was like the scene from Indiana Jones, the movie where you first see the Ark of the Covenant and how it glows. Like that was the glow from being in the the Fortress of Awesomeness, as I call it. And eventually, of course, it wore down being around my negative waves, as that dude said in the movie. First game I won of it, though. I don't think I won since then, but yeah, I won that first one. But I said it's because it was blessed. And I rolled really hot, and I was like, well, of course, everything's blessed in this game.
Yeah, Trevor says respect the game.
Yeah.
Robert's laughing here. All right, what is your 4?
My number 4, I was running behind. Long story, I was up till 3 a.m. I was dragging today. Anyway, I was going to write you and see if you could hold it up, because I have a copy coming in the mail, and it's not in yet. And I've had it before, and it is East Front, and that's 1991, I believe. Columbia Games, Tom Douglas, and Craig Bazink, the gurus, the masters of block games. And the reason what happened was I purged a bunch of games in a couple 3 years ago, got rid of about 20% of my collection for various reasons. And that one, if you're not familiar with it, it's East Front. It's Germany. It starts at Barbarossa, goes to the end, basically. And you actually introduced it to me when you had got a copy and made a review, and I was impressed. Of course, that copy, the second edition, it was going for like $87. There's not deep discounts on it. So and the map was so big. I think it's longer than my table. So I found the 91 first edition, which doesn't quite have as much map, but it's a little more manageable and quite a bit cheaper. So I grabbed it. Now, at the time, when I was purging games, I purged a lot of stuff because, hey, Aaron's the only guy that plays it with me, and he has it kind of like Rommel in the desert, so I don't really need a shelf trophy. And that one, I was so into the Holdfast. I thought, man, Holdfast does Barbarossa so much better, much smaller rule set, a lot faster, blah, 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 a lot more fun. And at that time, I just knew so little about what was going on in the Soviet front. And I thought, this just does it better. So I got rid of East Front because I thought this whole thing just takes way too long to play the whole war. It's like days upon days to play this. Right. And then as time went on, I learned more about it. And I got a book about what happened at Stalingrad. Started learning about Kursk, about Bagration, I think is what they call that. I said Bagration, but I think it's Bagration. I was watching the thing on a Napoleon dude, Napoleon in Russia, and they said that. I said, oh, I bet they named that operation after that general. But anyway, and then I realized, man, this is cool because you can play any of these scenarios. They're like, 4 hours or whatever, but you can play just this scenario and piece it together, play what you want. And it's like a cool system that does. And the system always was fun, and I thought this gives me a way, like a good system to play any number of these battles. I got to get that thing back. So I got on it on eBay like last Saturday and snagged a copy. And it's in transit. I was hoping to get here so I could hold it up.
And mine's boxed somewhere. I don't even know where that is.
Yeah, I just figured that it was just going to be too big of a game for me, and I had another because at the time all I was really playing was Barbarossa games. But no, it's really that good. I always enjoyed it. It's just I thought I had another game that did I think if I was playing Barbarossa, I always would go to Holdfast. And I think Holdfast goes up to like Case Blue. But really, it shines during the opening part of Barbarossa is where that game shines. And after that, no, I think East Front does it better. It's more detailed. It's not a super heavy game, but it's more detailed and just it has the right mix. So that is my number 4.
Beautiful. My number 4 is Hannibal, Rome versus Carthage. And there's a new version of this, which I actually got from Phalanx. But this I'd heard so much when I got back into gaming, and I sought this out. It was a bit expensive to get, And I think, if memory serves, when I first got it, I played with Bubs, and I just loved the feel, and the gameplay, and the map was gorgeous. What do you, now you're laughing, what do you got?
There's a comment over on the side.
Oh, hold on, let's see if you want
Corporal Bite about if you want to simulate the Eastern Front. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Tray ice cubes in your shorts while you play. You bet.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, uh-oh, did I play this with you instead of Bubs?
No.
Got it. No, but great comment, by the way. This was this one I had to seek out and find, and didn't pay a crazy amount, because I kind of did your deal where I stocked it for a long time on eBay, and then I was able to pick up a copy. And again, not my era, but I loved the I haven't played it in years, and I just love the back and forth that was in this. So again, did not play this when it was new, sought it out later, had a great time with it.
Oh, by the way, just because I wore the shirt to get in the mood, people are probably saying, why didn't you even talk about Dream Theater and the music? I wasn't into them until 2007. I was really late to the DT bandwagon. Just because it's probably going to pop up somewhere. Hey, when I went to BGG Con first time, I was playing Ardennes 44 by Simonich.
Right.
And I don't know, man. I just had the ultimate brain fart or something, because I'm playing this guy and like, this is a really cool game. And when I thought Mark Simonich, I thought artist, because I knew he made the map for Washington's War, Empire of the Sun. He does a lot of GMT stuff. And so I always think of him as an artist. And I thought, wow, I told the guy I was playing with, I go, man, for an artist, this guy made a really good game. And he just looked at me and he goes, have you ever heard of Hannibal? And I go, oh, he did make Hannibal, didn't he?
Yeah, good stuff.
Talented dude, multi-talented dude.
Very, very, very. And Robert says the Phalanx version is gorgeous. It is. It adds in oh my goodness, what's the back side of the map has
First Punic War, doesn't it?
What?
Didn't it have the First Punic War in there also? It's called like Hannibal and Hamilcar or something.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Originally, there was going to be an expansion to the Valley Games version, and Valley Games up front. Hate to trigger you with some little Kickstarter PTSD there, but yeah, I think that whole thing. I was looking forward to that.
Hamilcar, yes.
Yeah, when the second one, because I wanted to try the first Punic War, but then I never got the second one because I already had the Valley Games version. I was really happy with it, but yeah, I'd be curious to hear what people thought of the first Punic War with that system. And now he's doing one with the Gauls with GMT, the Gallic Wars. Using I think it's using the Hannibal system.
Awesome.
So, okay.
Valley Games, the pain. Yeah, Valley Games. Ugh.
Yeah.
Straight to the heart. Just.
Number 3 now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my number 3 is Paths of Glory.
Ooh.
1999 Ted Racer design. I think I got mine around. I got the 4th printing. I got it for Christmas. I wanted to say it was around 12 or 13. Oh wait, I played this around 11. Oh, it says 2010. So there you go. Right on the box. Yes, World War I card-driven game. And what was pretty cool was what you had: We the People, For the People, and Hannibal that all came out just boom, boom, boom in the 90s. And We the People, you could tell the influence that it was having on the other games. This went quite a bit in a whole different direction. Split decks. You didn't have little generals on stands, things like this. It took it in a whole new, and it created, oh man, Pursuit of Glory, Shifting Sands, Barbarossa to Berlin. It created like its whole own family of influenced children that use this system. Yeah, Festung Europa. I mean, just a bunch of these things. This was my introduction to World War I, and I've mentioned games like Battle Cry and Command and Colors Agents, how they got me into these topics. And I'm not a huge World War I gamer, but all I knew about World War One then, my silly notion of it was all trench warfare because of All Quiet on the Western Front, the version with John Boy that I mentioned in that 79, and guys with scars, these I call them swashbucklers with their scars on, having these glorious aerial battles, to show off whose plane was the coolest. I knew I didn't even know Romania and Bulgaria and Italy and all these other countries were in it. Barely knew about what was going on in Russia. And so anyways, when I got this, I've heard people say, simulation, but card driven games, you got to hit even the best ones. You got to have the cards in a certain order to play it out exactly, which is part of what card driven games do. They give you the what if this happened at a different time, what's the impact. This game taught me a lot of what I know about World War One. So, Ted Racer, that's his, that and Eastern Front World War II is his thing, So, tell he has a real passion for it. So I always commend this game on the highest level for, hey, it taught me, got me interested, went to the library and started checking out videos on World War One just to learn what these events on the cards meant. And I got really lucky. I knew I was getting this for Christmas. Not that I was breaking in snooping. I had a real good feeling my wife was getting this for me. And I was getting a game on a site for my sister or something and saw this. If you're not familiar with it, the Paths of Glory, the Player's Guide. And I thought, well, shoot, let me get it because the shipping's free. That thing went out of print and went through the roof. It had strategy articles. It had extra cards, alternate scenarios, all kinds of cool stuff. And man, that thing, and I was so lucky I jumped on that when I did. But what I was going to point out about this game was the last version that came out a year or two ago, GMT, included this in it. So if you're wanting everything with this game and you say, get the newer version, I think it might be available on GMT site. And if it's not, it's probably on its 100th printing on P500. But definitely worth getting. Those scenario and the strategy articles are pretty cool. I was playing a guy in Vassal and he clobbered me every time we played. But the second time we played, I had read the Player's Guide and I shocked him with a couple of moves. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to think I was a genius, but I really plucked that one from the Player's Guide.
See, and I never played it. And, I knew it was going to be, I knew it was I looked, it is the highest rated war game from the 90s. So I'm glad to see it on your list as well. I've never played it. World War One didn't speak to me much either, and my knowledge of it is I knew tanks came in and airplane warfare and the gassing, but the greater scope, it just never got into it either.
I'll tell you the thing about this game more than any other card-driven game is you get this hand of cards. You know how McClellan was on the battlefield. He is always convinced the enemy had 5 times the number of forces or whatever. You got this hand of cards. And you look at this giant map with battles all over the place going on, and you're like, how am I going to make my plans work with this? When I am convinced my opponent has a hand of 500 cards and can do everything he wants, right? That's what card-driven games are really about, the magic. You never know how much force the enemy can bring to bear. And you're just convinced. I mean, it's just like, it just almost freezes you with panic. Like, how do I make any of this happen? And how can I stop him from overrunning me? And, if he got it going on, he's thinking the same thing. And you got to really watch the supply lines. One of the things about this game is if you go out of supply, you're dead. I mean, your units are just eliminated into the turn. And there's always a joke about one little guy on a bicycle puts your entire West Front out of core. But what it's really teaching you is basically you get in those trenches on the Western Front. You don't let them get behind you. So it really makes you think. You're not going boom, break through, run through. It's nothing like that. You are very, very deliberate in how you do these things.
You're making me want to play it.
It's a fascinating game, and it actually solos. That's Stuka Joe, our dude. Yeah, he created that whole solo system to play Paths of Glory. That was the original one. The Stuka Joe method was created for that, so it works well. So excellent game.
Love it. Love Stuka Joe. My number 3, I have the original still in shrink. But Battle of Britain.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the PSC version. Great game. And I had picked up, I don't even think I cared if it was in shrink because I had full intentions of playing it. And I sought it out, found it, And then it just stayed in shrink and I didn't get to it. And then PSC got a hold of me and said, we're sending you this. I was like, oh, yes. And just reenacting the Battle of Britain and where you're, how are you going to manage your squadrons, and you're taking your hits. And as the Germans are coming across, it's just, and it's got, again, my first one's in shrink. This one's got such bling appeal. My grandson saw this on the table with all the Spitfires and the planes on their stands. And he was like, Grandpa, can I play? And that was, of course, my moment to try to create a little gamer. So I would say, okay, move this piece over here, roll the die for me over here. And, that's it. Whenever he comes over, he wants to see what's on the table. So great game. Thrilled it was reprinted. And now I don't know what I'm going to do with the one in the shrink, because I don't like to just keep things in the shrink. I either need to sell it to either a collector or someone else that actually wants to play it and take it out of the shrink.
Now, is that Richard Borg?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
it
I
is.
didn't know if that was added to the Butterfield game. I knew Butterfield made a Solitaire game on that. So, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had that on.
RAF isn't RAF Butterfield?
Bingo, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that on our top 5 air power games, I believe. And I remember it was on a pay it forward, and every time those pop up, I'd look games up, and that's how I found things like Blackbeard. And when I saw it, I was like, holy cow, Richard Borg made a game before Battle Cry. I want to see what he does when he's not using 3 sections and a hand of cards. And that's a pretty neat little game. But, it's got the customized dice. They've got the little British round roll and the German cross, and you check the dice, and that's Aaron and I played that, set it up and played that thing. That's pretty clever how he manages that. And you feel like you're in the old movies. They had the big boards. You want to get out that big stick and slide your pieces around.
Exactly.
That map look like that.
Yes, yeah. You feel like the radar's picking it up. These flights coming your way. It's exactly.
Yeah, and it's one of those games that even the old crusty grogs can't get. Oh, yeah, there's plastic pieces. Playing my toys and Memoir 44. These are on the pieces, but it looks more like you're playing a real simulation, and you're the command staff moving pieces around. And hey, I'm just checking the dice to find out what the result was of this battle.
Right. Nope. Perfect.
So, all righty. My number. What are we on? 2 now?
Yep.
Yeah. 2.
Go, baby.
2. For the People.
Oh, there it is.
And this is not the old version. Greg's actually I think Greg has both of them. But this is
he's a collector. He likes to just grab stuff and hold on to it.
Yeah, and have every version of it. Finish out the expansions.
Right. Yeah. Fear of missing out. That's Greg.
Yeah, that was funny when you were talking about that game, and I just shook my head and said, you were the anti-Greg, man. No, but yeah, he had the Avalon Hill version on one of our videos one time. I had the GMT version. I don't know if there were any differences or not. So I since Avalon Hill went under, I'm assuming the first versions of GMT were pretty much just updated artwork. Civil War, I remember the first time I was all in the We the People. It's like, oh yeah, For the People. It has the words the people. It's obviously got to be the same system. Oh no. It's not. It's a bit more complex. It's not that heavy of a game. The thing I will say is the game has a reputation that the river rules are kind of tough to grok. It's a little abstracted, but if you go to YouTube, Mark Herman has made a video. He sits there and explains it. Guy explained it to me that taught me the game on Vassal. And it made sense. I mean, first time I did it, and I'm sitting there, I would not move out of DC because I was afraid he'd just jump right across and hit DC. Now you can't do that, of course, which you shouldn't be able to, and they couldn't. But once I got a grasp of the river rules, this game's not that tough. And what's really cool is these Civil War games all have to deal, especially at this level, with the generals, because we have too much hindsight. Lincoln was desperately trying to find a general who wasn't a buffoon and was willing to fight. And they all cover in different ways, because otherwise, oh, hey, there's Grant Sherman. Let's get him in here and go kick some butt and end this thing. Some of them, I think some of them will have just schedules where, okay, this guy comes in on this turn. He's going to leave on this turn because we can't simulate death well enough, or, hit the death part of it well enough. Well, And the best one I ever saw, I mentioned, was, I mean, I think I mentioned on an old video, was called Grand Army of the Republic. It did the best job I ever saw. It's like an Axis and Allies type of game by task force that really made you feel like Lincoln, like which one of these generals are going to fight. But he has a pretty cool system with this political. It's like Empire of the Sun. He has a let's see, I think Empire of the Sun's political will, and this is called strategic will. It's a similar idea. But you know, if you lose battles, it's going down. You win them, they go up. You hit certain objectives. It's always going, and you're trying to break the enemy's will. Well, these generals have political values assigned to them, and if you sack them, you take a hit. If you don't assign them properly, you know, okay, I just drew McClellan. He has to be over this army. If I try to make him a subordinate, I'm going to take a hit. Or you know, or we. So he's got this political system figured into it. So yeah, McClellan's really high. I think Fremont, some of these guys that were buffoons, yeah, you can do it, but you'll do it at a cost. And I think I always thought if you took somebody that take both of those games and put them together, I'd love to dink around and try something like that. But you know, see how I love what they both do.
Well, as I learned in the Civil War, it was. I'm getting a little back if you bring your audio down. I don't know what happens with that. But it was like McClellan. McClellan was great. They thought he was going to be. I mean, he was. I think he was authored. He was supposed to be a genius, and he built this great army. I still think he just couldn't bear letting it be hurt.
Yeah, he early days of the war, he was the only guy that's having any success. I mean, they lost at Bull Run, and he had won out west of there, and pulled a pretty sharp move to do so. And you know, they thought and you know, one of the things the guy doesn't get credit for. I mean, so, well, yeah, people who really studied hard know that he really trained that army and got the morale back up. And a lot of people point out that, hey, Grant's success come from the army he trained. He just didn't have Grant's will to do what needed to be done. And the other mistake was he was always hiring those Pinkerton guys to do research. And they were telling him the enemy had 5 times the number of forces he had, and you know, the Quaker guns and things like that. That they, you know, painting logs and making them think they were, and artillery, which that card is in the game.
Yeah.
And you know, it's cool things he has in there where it basically has a thing where you can take a shot at a general to show when Stonewall died. You know, just lots of cool stuff Mark put in this game. Like one thing I like when I talk about, it's a minor card. It's not really that big, but you want to see what the effects if things didn't happen when they did. And like, you know, because it's near and dear to us, the Kansas card. What if Kansas doesn't join the Union in 1861? There's an effect that goes out there. And also cool in this game is you see a lot of stuff play out where, yeah, you're going down the western side first, just like they did, have more success. It's really hard to go right for Richmond. It's a meat grinder. You know, you don't have the forces, you don't have the generals. Over time, you really see how the blockade starts to work. The Union just gets bigger and bigger and builds the momentum. You got to pull it off in time to win, you know, and you can't let your political will go too low. You just can't, I'm just going to, you know, throw guys at you and meat grinder and, yeah, I'll take losses, but eventually, no, because your political will won't go down too low.
How do they work Sherman in?
Huh? Oh, Sherman's in it. He's one of the 2 best generals on the Union side. Yeah, he also has the interesting thing about this. It has a lot of what ifs. You know, it's a great what if study. Stuff that wasn't never. You know, Lee was never going to command anything but the Army of Northern Virginia. You know, his whole reason for not staying with the Union was because he felt like it. You know, he was a Virginian first and an American second.
Right.
But you had the possibility. What if Lee commanded the, you know, Army of Mississippi or something? You have these possibilities in here. Lots of generals die in this thing. You know, I think if you get a modified roll over 10 or something, you have to roll for generals' deaths. So you see a lot of these guys dying. And it's just a really good system. You can have armies with lots of generals and like maybe the head guy's protected because he's too far behind the lines. But hey, one of the subordinates is eligible to die. And you see these guys, you know, lots of attrition. So lots of just real, you know, game's a classic. Usually I hear that and the old Eric Lee Smith game called the best games on the topic, you know, and it's kind of divided on how much you like card driven games versus the old hex and counters types. but it, you know, it's just a classic for a reason. But definitely highly recommended. And the thing's always on GM. Either it's in print or they're printing up another copy of P500.
Right.
So,
No, it's great.
Okay, that's my number 2.
Got it. You've seen. So here is, and I do not have the newer upgraded version of Thunderbolt Apache leader. And everything that's always intrigued me, especially with these two planes, is that, you know, or helicopter and plane, it's that war in the 80s that never happens. And these are geared to go right at the mass numbered tanks that the Russians have. And then, it was one of the shows we had, I can't remember when a huge book I liked, which was Team Yankee.
Yes.
Harold Coyle is where you corrected me on that, I believe. Yeah, because I'd read it. I was like, it's actually not that I think I'm too big for an Abrams anyway, but it's totally scared me of being in a tank because I was like, whoo, which is definitely the safest an Abrams, way safer than my light infantry unit. But the whole idea of putting the strikes together and holding off those tanks and just that ground warfare support, and you can see, I mean, just the idea of putting your missions together, flying them, and keeping your pilots and getting the skill level up, and I love it. So, I mean, it's I'm not a diehard on the whole leader series. I kind of want to be. Like Corsair came out and then it was hard to find, and I think it's back in print or coming back in print. I love the Corsair, and I'm thinking, wow. And again, the Corsair brings in not only the Marines flying in World War II, and then that great video that a fan shared on here about them learning to fly off the carriers based on what the...
Hey, that was me, buddy.
I thought that was you that showed me that video?
That was me.
Wow, never mind. I'm going to give you credit then.
Yeah.
I thought somebody mentioned it on there, and then you found the video and sent me the link. Sorry. Judd found that. That was a great video. I shared that with my stepdad, who is a pilot. Great, that whole approach. But I knew the Corsairs were great at ground support, and having the Marines flying them, they knew how to get in low and slow and drop their, napalm and everything else. So I think my deal is it's less of like Hornet leader and things of that. It's less about the jets. And for some reason, I love ground support. I don't know how to explain that. So that's what I love with this particular game in the system. So
Chrono 77 asked a question. I was going to mention it about the DVG games.
Yes.
Am I echoing?
No, you're good.
Okay. I started with Phantom Leader, did a trade for it, and I think it was the first edition or DVG version, and I wasn't really into it. I couldn't pinpoint it. I think it was managing the pilot's fatigue and stuff. Just didn't do much for me.
Yeah, bomb
and
load.
Then at the same time, I had pre-ordered Hornet Leader, thinking, and then when I got the 2, I thought, well, a lot of similar weapons. Hornet just has a lot more, blah blah blah. Traded Phantom, and then over time I realized Hornet ain't doing it for me. I don't have a lot of fun with this system. And then I got that particular copy. I had it in a video, and I was curious. I just figured it was going to be, this is funny here in GMT, that it was going to be a lower quality version, because GMT is kind of the king of the hill with a lot of these things. But it was old GMT, early 90s. Yes. And but when I've never played the DVG version of that, but the GMT version had a lot more meat on the bones. The same system of pilot fatigue was there, but when you got into combat, it was a lot more interesting than, here's just chuck a die and roll it. It seemed to have a more of this tactical feel once you're on the battle, and I thought this is a whole lot better system. And I don't know if I thought this was just a richer experience, and why the heck did he not use this on these other games that come along later? And I thought these other ones just felt like he was pulling too much out and making them too easy. And there's that whole fiddly thing. Are these rules worth the payout? And in that case, I would say, yeah. Now I ended up purging it in my purge, because I just only so many games in this lifetime I can play and yada yada. But I put on there that I think this is a better game than the other two. The system's a lot more rich. I don't know if the new version copied any of that stuff. Hopefully some people know, but yeah, I kind of agree that the ones I played at DVG weren't near as good as that GMT one.
I just didn't get into, I just figured it was this jet fighter to fighter. I know they do split missions and they can be doing, ground attack stuff there too. But yeah, to me, I think it all harkens back to that. And even when I was in the Army doing some training, down at Fort Polk, some A-10s came over. You could hear them running their guns at, far away. And man, I was like, holy moly, I love that Warthog.
Yeah.
So,
and I think this one, let you send in ground units, and then you did the support, where all the others were, you're just flying in and doing a mission to take out a factory or something in Vietnam or something. But this actually lets you bring in ground support and support them against enemy units.
Right.
So yeah, that was yeah. So what I wish they would have done, if I don't know if they did this, what I would have done if I was them, but I'm not. So he probably knows more about running a business. Was the new components are really cool, mounted boards and all that stuff. I would have kept all that stuff in as optional rules if you wanted to, add the chrome for those who like it, and then you'd have the complete experience.
So Vorpal, real quick, and then we'll get into our honorable mentions before we hit number one. He says, Bart and Judd, what is the best jet-to-jet combat game? Man, I would not be the best reference on that you have. I
don't know. There's that one that SPI put out, Air War Tactical Combat.
Yeah.
Joke is that, you might as well learn how to fly a plane.
Right.
You might have an easier time.
I think I might have even had that.
Yeah, actually, I think you do. I think I saw it and I chuckled.
Yeah, I think I have.
Aaron actually played that back in the 80s. He said he had nothing to do, so he just said I think he played like 6 hours and got like 5 seconds of the turn done of the game.
And then Avalon Hill had, and I think I have it too. Great cover. I can't remember what it was called. Somebody will have it on the side here because I had that as well. I think that's one of the ones where I'm like, ooh. I think I picked it up. I kept wanting to get, there's air superiority. It wasn't that one. Because I picked up the air superiority games too. I kept wanting to get into them and I just couldn't get it to click. And I think that's where I finally came up with the idea that that's why I thought the Leader series would even be good, because it's more about managing the pilots and the loads. And I thought, well, maybe I need that rather than the simulated combat. And I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, I just realized I probably won't be buying many of those anymore. So
yeah, I've had that struggle going on. I love the Corsair.
Flight Leader. That was it.
I think Whistling Death was going to be too much game for me for what I wanted. One of those too detailed. But then it seems like there was always just such a great divide between, roll your dice, circle and shoot type of games in 2 dimensions. And it is complicated to deal with the 3rd dimension. So that's why I like those little Ace of Aces games, because hey, if you don't like the game, it's over in 5 minutes. And then that one I had on our list, the Dawn Patrol, I thought it did a pretty decent job for it. Yeah, if you're a real snooty, whiz bang, you might say, it's just not realistic enough. But I don't want that much realism. It's just not worth the payout. So
anyway, yeah, I'm with you.
Ready for the honorable mentions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, normally I do these in alphabetical order. I did this by stack because the game on top is so freaking valuable. I was not going to put another game on top of it. So
come on, dish that box. Dish it.
They are just kind of random. Carrier. That's why. If you know that game, I paid $150 for this thing. Unpunched. Well, it's really cool though. The guy's from Wichita. And his folks taught my kids' Sunday school class, and I used to see him and talk war games with him. I was like, dude, I didn't know that was you. So save shipping. Autumn of Glory, I've mentioned a lot about that Civil War series that Clash of Arms put out. Really cool game in the system. Bart, when you finish the Saratoga book, play the game. Saratoga.
I was reading it again this morning. They were just bringing in the Mohawks, and they were explaining how vicious the Mohawk Indian tribe was.
Yes.
And that it meant, in an Iroquois language, it meant like the eaters of people. I was like, oh my God. And then they were that great book again, man. I'm still reading it. I've got
There's
like
a
5
book
books.
called Wilderness Empires. It's a narrative type of history, but it's pretty well written. And yeah, you read that, and it's kind of like Last of the Mohicans, where he holds that heart up and takes a bite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Put
but
that
yeah,
again.
this is part of the GMT tri-pack. So if you have it, it's in there. If not, it's easy to get because a lot of people upgraded the tri-pack and then sold off their individuals. This was the best game in the whole series that I ever played because this was the one the rules were made for. The other games felt like they were trying to force rules onto something that doesn't work, especially Guilford. But this one did a really, really good job.
Great cover, by the way. They talk about that photo because it's in the book and how.
Oh, I make a joke about that. What's his name? The Lilliputans and the giant dude. And they tie him down.
Gulliver.
Yeah, Gulliver. They're all fighting. Anyway, okay.
Now, what was the narrative book again? Tell me that real quick.
Wilderness Empires. I forget the name of the author.
Okay, I'll look it up.
See it from here. If I had my glasses on, I could probably read the author. Bobby Lee, and my other 5th honorable mention, Blue versus Gray. QED and GMT both put it out.
Now, for me, real quick, hold up Carrier War again. Now, Carrier War is my honorable mention. The caveat to that is, and it's funny because I've given my youngest son my old iPad version 2 or whatever, but there's a digital game called, I think it's,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Carriers or something, and the whole thing was he loved that game, but he said, you know what? Let me do it digitally. and it feels like you're pushing counters around on the map, and he's able to do, everything's hidden because you've got to send out searches and you got to figure out what the planes and what their arc of search is. And it's Carrier done digitally, and I'll never play that again. I will play the game, and he keeps upgrading it. You can play it 2-player with one side actually playing the Japanese. I haven't done that, but check that out. I wish I could remember the full name and give him credit. But if you look on the back history of my videos, I even did a review of it just because I love it so much. And it is Carriers done digitally, and it's perfectly done.
Yeah.
So that is my honorable mention. Just one.
Okay. My number one, that's why I made the face when you mentioned the game, like, ooh, Hannibal. Valley Games version. Amazing. I know so much about it. I was sitting there looking at the names of hell. Yeah, I have the Valley Games version, but when I played it on Vassal originally, it had the old Avalon Hill, which kind of, when I first looked at it, I didn't realize that Avalon Hill had done. I thought, why are the graphics so different? But the gameplay was the same. Love this game, and boy, the battles get you so immersed into it. It copies the We the People system. Hey, you get this hand of cards, allies give you more leadership, various hands of size. You lead, left flank card, I have to match it or I lose. Then I rolled against my generals, battle rating, better generals have a better chance, and I take the counterattack. And then I start throwing cards, and we go back and forth. Really, really. But what's cool is this isn't in We the People. The longer the battle goes, the greater the casualties to both sides. The loser's going to take extra, and then you got to retreat. And if you're retreating through, tough spots, you start taking more casualties. And man, you can really get ground down with this. And just love. And then when you lose one of your political control markers on the board because, hey, Rome ain't so tough. Let's cause a little rebellion way out here, and that just, it's such a great thematic feel. All the cards, you get the Macedonian dude in there. He's in this thing. All the stuff going on with the Numidian queen, stuff going on over the Iberian Peninsula. Just all these cards are so rich. I mean, granted, we don't know tons of stuff in this point of history, from this time in history, but what we do know, they do a great job of fitting that in there. And this game has aged so well.
Very,
pull the old version out, and it still plays. You don't sit there and feel like, the only thing you might say needs an upgrade is maybe the graphics. But the Romans, all these generals, but you have a proconsul and 2 consuls, and you draw them randomly because it was an election. They all have different powers. That's really cool. Just So much richness. Now, what's interesting is it's a tough game to solo. Stuka Joe's method ain't going to work. How do I play a battle? Okay, do I going to play a left flank card? I know I don't have one. Something like that. And you could play the rest of it, but the battles are just brutal. And Washington's War, when they upgraded We the People, had that die system, and I was always hoping somebody would make one for Hannibal. Now I get why. The battle's a little more complex, so I get why. Now, what's interesting, I've mentioned this before on We the People, was when I first got into the gaming and got it before I met you and Greg and all those guys. I had taken my Visual Basic 6, that kind of dates me as a dinosaur, and I had made a program that fought the battles. You tell it who the two generals are, which side you're taking, blah, 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 how many cards. And I had various strategies built in it, and it could alternate the strategies when you were least expecting it. And I had a losing record against my artificial intelligence on battles. I had programmed it too well. And then the funny thing, when Greg and I was playing that game, man, he is so brilliant at these games, and he just, boy, he's playing chess while you're playing checkers. When we played the battles, I won all the battles but two, and one of them was like mathematically impossible for me to win. One of them I was like down 9-3 on cards, but it was just crazy. Even when he had like a little bit of advantage on the cards, I kept winning to his cards like in disbelief, because I knew he was going to take the logical route. And I'd sit there and I'd roll a die. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, just keeping the die warmed up." Well, I was sitting there rolling the die to say, am I going to change my strategy? Yeah, okay. And it keeps you totally unpredictable. And I thought, wow, I have built an artificial intelligence that is pretty darn good. My joke was I disbanded it before it got hold of the nukes. The real truth was when Microsoft went to Vista, it no longer supported Visual Basic 6. So I couldn't ever edit my programs. The EXE worked just fine. I really, really want to do that for Hannibal. And I've been desperately trying to find a copy of Windows XP to stick on an old computer so I could do that. And then it finally hit me one time at like 4 in the morning. I got out of bed. I got thinking so much I had to get out. I started writing it down and saying, why don't I just make a pencil and paper copy instead of having the computer do it? Now, there is some complex calculations involved at one spot that would make it annoying. But I've been dinking around with creating a Solitaire system for handling the combat for this thing. So I'm really itching to get it back on the table and dink around with it.
Wow.
That's a bit of a rabbit trail.
No, you stunned me. That's awesome.
But yeah, if I ever could get that system going, probably really popular because people probably love to solo this thing more.
You bet.
It's tough to play on play by mail too. If you think about it, okay, I play a left flank card. I send you the file. You look at it that night. You get home from work. Oh, here I match the left flank. Oh, I got send it back to me, and take 2 weeks to fight a battle. So when Rob and I did this, we just agree on a time. Let's meet at such and such time, and then we'd get on and play the battles live. And then we'd go back to making our plays by email. So
that's smart.
Game that if you could fix the combat system, it makes it way more playable.
I think Vorpal says the man has motivation.
What's funny is there's all these gurus telling me, oh, yeah, you can do this virtual machine and blah, blah. I was like, you assume I'm smarter than I am. I know enough to be dangerous. I know way more about computers than the average Joe like I work with. Or my work and stuff, I know how to mess with registries and stuff like that. But that kind of stuff's a little bit beyond my ability. And I said, if I could just get an XP, the problem with XP is that you had to register it online. So I've wondered maybe I should go to Windows 98 back before you had to do all that stuff, but it was so freaking unstable. So I've been pondering how to do this. I put buddies out, hey, keep your ear to the ground, see if you can get me an XP machine or something.
Well, you're in the right place, man.
Why did Bill Gates have to leave? That was his baby. As long as he was there, they were always going to support Visual Basic. And then, one of the guys at work said, hey, just learn visualbasic.net. It's just like C. And I'm like, you assume I know C. I did Fortran 77 in college. Come on, man. I'm a dinosaur. I did Apple Basic back on the 2C.
I still like your statement on how you were able to challenge Greg was by just making sure what you were doing was random instead of.
Well, it wasn't. I'm just randomly going to pick a card.
Right.
There's 4 different, like the strategies were, if he played a left flank, I'd counter him with the left flank. Okay. Let's second. Are you still reading me?
Yeah, I got you.
I got 17 minutes. Yo, you got the cord up there? You got the cord up there? I got 17 minutes of time on this computer.
Oh, look at this. You're going to get...
It's not plugged in. I was running late, so my wife ran and set it up for me.
You're doing great. I like it. I like the
I just got it. My screen went and started going dim. But no, but yeah, you play a left flank. I might counter you with the cards you played me in. Another strategy was, which card do I have the most of in my hand? Or one of them was like, mathematically, I have 60% of the right flank cards. So the chances are that I have a better chance that you won't have that. It had these various strategies that it used. And one of them was just pick a random card. But it wouldn't lock in on a single strategy where you can start to figure out what it's doing. There was like a 20% chance it would change strategy during mid play. And when I did that, it made you totally unpredictable, but there was a method to the madness. But that was so funny when I played Greg, because I could tell he's frustrated because I kept winning battle after battle, and if anything broke normal, he was going to slaughter me. But for some reason, I just kept winning those things. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Let me go. I'll take myself to full screen here while you get plugged in. And Ricardo Sedan said, "Hey, I did Fortran."
There we go. Okay.
Don't overthink. Just roll dice, says Vorpal. All right, let me bring us both back in.
Anyway, but yeah, when you're sitting there trying to calculate, I had this formula built in for how many double envelopment cards are there? How many? Screen's missed. Okay, there. How many double envelopments? How many left flanks? What percentage of them do I have? And it's counting cards from the other side that it's played, and it's saying, okay, I have so many available, frontal attack cards. Which one gives me the best chance that they can't match this? That's a pretty detailed calculation. Right now, I have it set up in Excel, but it was so much easier in Visual Basic 6 when you just put the computer up and tell the generals it is like match a left flank. If you deal your cards out to yourself or whatever, and it would just say, hey, deal and it was pretty slick. I had a lot of fun playing with the people that way.
Perfect. I like what you're saying. All right, my number one. Now, before I go in, Greg had brought this, and we had a big group playing Atlantic Storm. All right, I love Atlantic Storm. It's got, this is like Judd's version of a great party game right here. You played this with us, right?
I have not. I've only played Pacific Typhoon.
Okay, and that's good too. But Atlantic Storm, I think we've had, I don't even know what it handles, but I think we had 8 people and we worked it in. What does this say it handles? I don't even know. My copy is all wore out. And again, just joking, Greg does not have fear of missing out. That was a total joke, Greg, because he'll watch this later. I think he knows that. But Atlantic Storm is so awesome because you're playing your hand. It's like a trick-taking game. You're playing for the battle that's out there. You've got your hands of cards. You're laying in what you're going to do. And then as it goes around the table, people are jumping in on one side or the other. And you can make, deals like, I'll give you X amount of these victory points if you come in on my side. Or, hey, Greg's winning. We need to make sure that Greg doesn't win this particular in this one, it's not battles, it's the tonnage from the shipping, the convoys coming across. So, sorry, Pacific Typhoon is the battles that you're going in and fighting. And I think both of them work great. I think Atlantic Storm's a little bit tighter, but it's that whole, just that it's the way the cards work and the way the play works at the table. I find this game so fun and enjoyable. With my shift work, I was working Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays off, and we had, I think we were getting 6, 7, 8 guys coming over here on a Friday, and we just kept playing Atlantic Storm and Pacific Typhoon, and it was such a rich, fun gaming time. I couldn't believe we were getting that many people even showing up, and so the fact they kept coming back, I didn't have the game. It was Greg's copy. And I went and I searched and searched. This is a well-worn, kind of beat-up copy that I paid a lot of money for on eBay. Just because I've got a little helper guide here. But these cards, so you can, well, I don't even know if it'll show. But just phenomenal game. Great fun, handles a group so well. And you've never played Storm, just Typhoon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I always did at Tornado Alley every year, the game day we'd have. And it was awesome. I mean, Greg would almost be like a dungeon master running the game, because he's so sharp on his math already, and he'd just be like, he knew the rules. Dude knows rules like whoo. It's like Data from Star Trek, able to recall stuff. And but he'd just sit there and he'd come to your turn and he'd make it so easy. And he's like, this side showing 15 plus 2 dice, and this side is showing 13 plus 3 dice. Or else, what's funny was Bubs, our friend, and the guy who's just, I don't know how the guy does it, but he is the notorious worst, unluckiest die roller I've ever seen. If the Bubs was going to roll the die, Greg would calculate him as a 1. Instead of 15 plus a die roll, he'd just say 16 on that side. he talked smack. It was quite entertaining. But yeah, it was really cool. And the table talk in that thing.
Yes, tons of that. And then Bubs and Greg could go back and forth. And it's funny, they're like juxtapositioned war gamers. So and Bubs will kill me. I love you to death, Bubs, if you're watching. He'll throw a bunch of games in like the back of his trunk, and they'll just ride around for months. And I'm like, oh my God, your box came open in the back. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, how can you drive around with your game box spilling all over the back? Oh, no big deal. And I'm like, oh my God, my OCD starts kicking in. And I'm like, what are you doing? And how did this get bent? He goes, oh, I put a package on it. What? He's like, it's just meant for play. And I'm like, oh my God, you need to put it on a shelf. You need to wear gloves.
I'll tell you what's funny, the way you don't like to sleeve cards.
Right.
You ever play old Greg's games like up front, man, you can tell them dudes have been riffle shuffling. And I'm like,
I know. So that's where my
games are meant to be loved, man. I'm like, they're meant to be loved, but I want to love them for a longer time.
Right. That's where my OCD stops. I don't like the plastic between me and the card. I want to feel the fibers, man. And when I see some wear on the cards, I'm like, yeah, well played game. I've gotten so much play out of this. So,
Raster, you need to have friends to play Atlantic Storm. It is not a solo game. It is a table talk, social experience, hand of cards game that there's no Stuka Joe method for that. That's all about the social experience.
Raster's awesome. Raster was a fan of the Scotch Whiskey Show, and he heard about bonding with board games and came over. But yeah, that one, you need a group to play, and it's a great convention game because there's usually somebody getting a big game of it going.
Now everything I think I've put up is solo capable. So actually, no, Autumn of Glory, my honorable mention, that would be a really, really, really tough one to play. But everything else is either solo or solo capable. You might have to twist a little bit, like Hannibal. You got a hand of cards, you'll lose a little bit. But once I get that artificial intelligence system going, it'll work pretty well.
Yeah. Atlantic Storm is not solo capable. It would make a great actual digital version if they did it. That would be
like for the people, you can play pretty well. You even use a Stuka Joe method. Saratoga, stuff like that is all solo, nothing hidden in it. Well, I'm not going into that asterisk about this.
Yeah, Raster. The good thing is Raster, there's so many great solo games coming out, solitaire games. You can just search on Board Game Geek and you'll find tons and tons in really whatever genre you want. The new stuff is amazing. Excuse me. Greg Smith putting out a lot of stuff with all of his Night Fighter Ace, Interceptor Ace, that the original B-17, the Leader series. So there's so much out there. If you like subs, Greg Smith's Hunters, and then he takes it over to the Pacific, and then he flips it, and it's the Japanese side. So if you want subs and convoy syncing, you can get that in Greg Smith's game. So look those up. I had a live with him too that you could go watch, Raster, that I had last week where he came on and we did an interview. So, Judd, we've had at one point, and I may have missed, we had 54 eyeballs, which is great. Of course, this will go up and play on YouTube. We get a bunch more folks that chime in. Let me go over some of the comments here. Vorpal had mentioned the whole the BattleTech stuff that was going on. That was huge. Let's see what else we had. Trevor Just, did Chief just casually toss in a B-17? Maybe I worked in a little B-17 in there. Great game. Let's see. Rostamon 209 also like Blood and Thunder. Let's see. What do we got? I don't even know why I love subs so much. Yeah, subs. Subs are cool, man. Raster, you'll love Greg Smith's stuff. Go look at Gregory Smith's. Let's see. The Ulf Hetnar Lock and Load as a new Admiral edition for Atlantic Storm. There is a solo mode in it. Maybe or AS. I'm not sure what I'm missing there. Interesting. You know what else was out at this time? I think I didn't get into it, but Magic the Gathering started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember
Mark Herman told the story on one of the podcasts that you remember how Victory Games, their cards lacked a little something in the quality.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. That's why I sleeved my Tokyo Express cards. But no, he said that when Magic took off, because of the demand for it, a company opened. You used to have to buy regular cards over in Europe,
right?
And they opened a factory over in the United States, and that made it really easy to get. And that's what launched We the People, because he was able to take all the rules instead of writing this excessive rule book. He could put it right on the card. And that was cool because that one act, oh my goodness, look at what card-driven games did for this industry. I mean, Twilight Struggle. I mean, you could just go on and on and on. Empire of the Sun. Those things were you saw my top 3 roll card-driven games. And I said We the People's in the Hall of Fame, or it would have been number 1. I could have been having 4 of them things up there. And it just, wow, for about a 10-year run there, they were just all the rage. I mean, I don't see them as much anymore. After about 2010, they started really dropping off. But boy, for that run, they were, and it's all because Magic the Gathering. So
yeah, I remember being a gamer and then running into these fellow gamers, but they're all playing Magic, and I was like, what? And I remember somebody showing. I'm getting a little reverb again. If you're able to. Maybe it cooled off. It might have cooled off. Sometimes the software has got to catch up, and then it wheels that out.
Okay. So, man, I'm getting much quieter. I can't hear you.
I know. Sorry. I think the system will get better. Yeah, you're doing good. You're doing good. It picks up. But I remember Magic the Gathering, seeing it, and then a guy tell me, "Oh, you should play." And then I realized what the buy-in was. I was like, "Ooh, no." And but that was it. Well, great stuff. Let me let's see. I won't do a roll through. We'll see what other comments came in, and then we'll wrap up and get out of here. Vorpal's putting it up front, a naval war, enemy in sight. He's got fingers in ears for something. But again, it was an interesting, the 90s and the aughts. We will be doing the aughts in a couple weeks. That'll round out our time here with all these dancing through the decades is what I want to call it. Wargaming through the decades. Shouldn't be dancing. What was that? Should be battling through the decades. So, I hate Pikachu. Yeah, so he must be talking.
I like the meme.
Yeah.
It's a real popular meme, the Pikachu face.
So he must be talking about all the collectible card games.
Yeah, that was that. They got to collect them all dudes. Oh, I forget the name of that silly game, but yeah, they got this online version, and man, there's a spot right out behind my house. I would see cars going over there to try to collect them dudes.
Oh yeah, well yeah, you're talking about
Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon Live or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. All right, we are going to wrap up. Anything you want to throw in, Judd?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all. Yeah. The 90s were interesting because that's where I thought, Avalon Hill went under, and I thought, Victory Games stopped. I thought video games were going to kill it all, and it was interesting because you wanted the impact that decade had with like I said, the card-driven games were huge. Richard Borg put out the Battle Cry, and look at that. I mean, shoot, I've got about a shelf and a half dedicated to that dude, and I don't even have all those games.
Yep, Battle Cry came out. I don't have that. I've got the other anniversary, 150th anniversary edition.
Yeah.
So I didn't list it, but I've got it shrinked. I haven't actually. That's the one CNC I haven't played or unshrinked. So that one deserved to be on there as well. Also, before we leave,
I probably forgot it. You probably should have been in my honorable mention. I forgot it.
Yeah, I should have thrown it in mine. Guys, so next Saturday, I will read off your top 5 lists. So you can put them in the comments. Try to just keep it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A much better chance. I don't promise to read them all. As a matter of fact, I never read them all. I try to hit a good percentage. You can post them on BGG once this gets up as well. I'll put this video there, but please put your list in. And next week I'll be doing the fans version live, and I love to include your guys' lists in there as well. And then 2 weeks from now we'll be doing the odds.
That's
we'll get into that.
That's going to be a painful list.
And then thanks again to my Patreon supporters. So if you like the show and you want to support on Patreon, you can go to Patreon, look up Bonding with Board Games. I've got a few people there, and I'm looking at working in. I won't give too many things away, but I'm going to work in my supporters. They're going to work themselves into a game that maybe shall not be mentioned, and we'll see what happens. I can't do as good as Stuka Joe, but we'll see. I'm gonna have some fun with the Patreon supporters. So
I'll be thinking about what movies and videos TV shows you're watching.
Yeah, so we set the stage. We set the stage with music when we come in and do the list. When we do the fans list, we always work in TV series and movies. In this case, from the 90s. So,
what would be my favorite TV series from the 90s? I don't.
Oh no. Boy! So Raster says, "Thanks, guys. You guys are fun. Better than chatting with chess fans." He does that. Well, that's good too. All right. We are out. Another great version of some HAMTAGery. That should be a name of a plane. I think HAMTAG should be a plane name. I might even have nose art. Oh, we got to go. See you guys later. We're clicking out. And boom, we're wrapping.